Welcome back to my channel, Star Booze.
James Brolin, the man who journaled every day with Barbra Streisand, is currently composing the most difficult entries yet. She accepted 3 proposals before telling producers he couldn't commit. Currently, their disparate financial accounts are finally combining due to medical expenses. Last year, following their 25th anniversary, the couple faced their most difficult. Hollywood insiders claim that Brolin turned down a $2 million part because remain at home. This could be the most devastating chapter of his life. Craig Kenneth Brolin was born James Brolin on July 18, 1940. During Earth Day he came. It was 1:03 in Los Angeles during a sweltering heatwave, and his father, Henry, a prosperous contractor, arrived at the hospital in about 12 minutes. Henry operated his home like a rigid machine just before Craig was born. Craig, who was 4 years old, had weekly conduct evaluations and daily tasks. Mother Helen never informed Craig that she didn't want to work as a film extra. Craig was a quiet child, in part due to the fact that he was diverted from school. He was hospitalized for 4 days at the age of 7 due to severe asthma. At 9, he disassembled and reassembled his father's watch since he still had a bright mind. His mechanical prowess was noted by his tutors, but no one anticipated how enamored he would grow of James. Craig watched East of Eden when Dean was 15 and it touted everything. For 6 months, he rode his bike covertly every Saturday. Miles to Griffith Park, where he imitated Dean's gait, tone, and appearance. He saved more than $200 by hiding 73 James Dean clippings in his room behind a poster. He purchased an 8mm camera and recorded 24 silent reenactments while delivering papers. Craig didn't talk to the neighborhood kids for 11 years after Dean died in a vehicle accident. After discovering one of his short films, his drama teacher forwarded it to UCLA, with it revealing it to him earned Nicholas Ray, the same individual who directed Dean in Rebel Without a Cause, which cemented Craig's ambition to become an actor, even though he puked before every audition. In 1960, due to his shyness, the studio advised him to change his name since Brotterland seemed too German. They even had statistics showing that short names with hard sounds were more easily recognized. Craig argued against it at 7 meetings since he didn't want to do it. But though, because of his father's fascination with James Dean, the studio awarded him James. Didn single quotes to him for more than a year, and his mother sent his updated headshot to family members in an attempt to justify 214. James had trouble sleeping at night without taking medication, and the studio informed he was behaving too much like Dean, which was exactly what they had requested back in 1966 on the Batman television series. Brolin first portrayed a bank teller in small appearances. He got more film time since the director loved how he dumped the money bags months later. He was cast as the eraser by a different director who was unaware that he had been Anadam. West performed his own stunts during the event before he even broke 3 ribs. Selected him for a third part, but nobody on the set realized he was already cast. He used the gym and lived in a 1958 Chevy when homeless twice. When he starred in the showers at Fox Studios in 1967, everything fell apart. He submitted letters regarding the poor writing for the movie Cape Town Affair, warning that it would fail, and cultural barriers. Nobody watched the movie, and he was dismissed while there. While his mother was in the hospital, Fox insisted that he refund $11,400. He became a mechanic after being unemployed for 18 months due to a lack of income. He used to be a rising star in Van Nuys, mending automobiles for folks who didn't know it. When a Universal executive brought his vehicle in for repairs, fate intervened and Brolin's work ethic struck him, so he offered him a screen test. That test led Brolin's life was transformed by his portrayal as Dr. Stephen Kiley on Marcus's show, Well BMD. Began in 1969 and ran until 1976. Brolin portrayed a young doctor who rode a motorcycle and collaborated with an older partner. Program became a big success in 1970. He won 2 Golden Globes and an Emmy. The show's second season, which addressed serious issues, was the most watched on ABC. Medical conditions such as cancer, depression, and Alzheimer's disease. One homosexuality-related event led to demonstrations, but Brolin remained dedicated to writing stories that had purpose. And in 1972, he took in Streisand. He portrayed a troubled Vietnam veteran who takes over Applin. He played Charlton H. The film was dramatic and tense, and Brolin critics praised him for portraying the insane hijacker flawlessly, despite the fact that it was extravagant, demonstrating that he was capable of transcending the serene doctor persona. Westworld followed in 1973. He portrayed John Blaine, a self-assured guest in a theme park where robots appeared and behaved like people. It was a science. Brolin's was the first work of literature to employ early digital effects. Halfway through the film, a character is slain in a startling sequence that twists his performance in 1979, added depth and contrast to the film, making the rest of it even more powerful. In the Amityville horror film, Brolin played George Lutz, but he was initially confident about the movie, but as he read the script, he became frightened and his pants fell off a chair by themselves. Saw it as evidence that the movie was a tremendous box office hit, grossing over $80 million. Brolin's portrayal of a man gradually Coming apart was terrifying. It captured the many people experienced familial pressure and worries about financial collapse in the late behind the scenes. He and co-star Margot Kadier argued in the 1970s, but the tension served in 1985. Brolin's cameo in Pee-wee's Big revealed his humorous side. He portrayed Pee-wee as a stylish secret spy in the adventure. It was a witty reference to his nearly James Bond status while he was starring in the 5-year run of the TV series Hotel provided Brolin with a steady career. Every episode features Peter McDermott, the polished manager of a posh hotel in San Francisco. Brolin was in the center, with new drama, guests, and even some episodes. He received 2 Golden Globe nominations, and he met a new person during that time. Jan Smithers, his future wife, appeared as a guest star during a difficult time for him, divorce. Barbra Streisand was born on April 24, 1942 in Brooklyn. Diana, a school secretary, and Emmanuel Oetis, earning $4,200 a year, which was insufficient to sustain the family in their little flat. Her father passed away when Barbra was just 15 months old due to either. Family had to move in with her because they only had $250 saved. Although Barbra's grandparents never met her father, they subsequently discovered a message he had left in. Harry feel that this baby book is going to be particularly memorable. Barbra received a half-sister when her mother remarried in 1949, but things didn't get better. Her stepfather was aloof and reportedly threatened to crush her by 1958. When Barbra left home at the age of 16, she had no money and nowhere to go. She spent a year and a half staying wherever she could, including couches, old cots, friends, and even she used tape to keep one luggage intact during the summer fire escapes. There were 12 albums, 2 sets of shoes, and 3 outfits inside, which she preserved even after that. Maintaining perfect attendance at school, she studied at dining establishments and libraries. Only $17 a week, working part-time for 75 cents an hour. Yet she managed tallest by going to see her mom twice a week, exactly in time for her to eat dinner. For 3 years, she fixed the same coat without acknowledging that she was homeless. Oneself, even using leftover costume materials to dye it a different color. By 1960, Barbra was earning little more than $46 a week as an usher at a theater that she has over 100 viewings of the same play, The Sound of Music. Learned every scene by heart, and she rehearsed singing by herself in Theon evening at the theater. A stage manager heard her sing and assumed she was an understudy. She openly stated that she was auditioning even though she wasn't. When he asked who she was, she spontaneously performed for 3 casting directors who happened to be in the area, performed for $18 throughout the weekend in a nightclub 2 days later, double her regular salary. But she was sacked by the theater for violating the regulations. Matter. She had only just made her first significant move into the entertainment industry. She had never received a voice lesson. Instead, she learned how to sing in subways and stairwells, checking echoes and making little. Later that year, she was lodging in a small apartment with a buddy named Barry Denon. He persuaded her to record 3 tracks in their sweltering flat, using an old Barbra, and the Realtor recorder had to remain motionless and remained precisely 27 inches from. Barry dropped his coffee mug in horror when they played back the video on the microphone. He played the tape for 14 minutes and claimed the voice was unlike anything he had ever heard. Some in the music industry didn't think it was genuine. According to one record executive, refused to accept that it was a youngster, without any instruction, and instead believed it had been expertly manufactured. When the truth was revealed, the unprocessed tape eventually ended up in the library of the night that everything changed. In September 1960, Congress arrived at the age of 18. Barbra appeared on a nightclub stage wearing a $6 thrift store dress. She was frequently told that she was rejected from 7 auditions that month because her earrings didn't match. One producer even remarked that she had $1 million voice, since she looked so odd but a 5-cent face. Yet she sang Cry Me a River that evening, and then the audience became silent during a humorous rendition of Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf, and then they cheered for almost 5 minutes, and the judges gave her flawless scores on the first day. Critical reviewer even claimed that her nose may become as famous as her voice in 2 years, if it had ever happened there. She demonstrated that the skill didn't have to fit by landing 23 paid engagements in just a few months. The standard of beauty in 1961. She took a risk by changing her name. Dropping Barbra claimed that being the second A to become Barbra made her stand out and that she kept her refusing cosmetic surgery. The Brooklyn accent singer continued to perform the strange tunes she enjoyed, and one chilly night, she performed for just 7 people. Didn't care. She pretended that the space was crowded and refused to alter who she was to fit in. And it worked at the time. She made her Broadway debut in 1962 as Miss Malstein in the production of I Can Get It. The day before the major audition, she still had a 103 fever for you wholesale when she appeared. The filmmakers nearly cut her big scene because it was too strange. However, she battled for it, and on the first night, the audience forced her to sing it 3 times. She was only a supporting actor, but the newspaper only discussed her in the critiques, referring to her as the funniest thing that has happened on Broadway since Fanny Brice, who began earning $175 a week. But Barbra let her go in 1963 after her contract was renegotiated 5 times. Columbia Records only produced 10,000 copies of the first record because they believed it would fail. It sold 150,000 copies despite having only show tunes and ballads, instead of popular songs. Copies in a single month, and she was in complete control. She picked the tracks and even turned down ACLA cover and used a straightforward black and white image, which contrasted with everything else, using marketing guidance. She won a Grammy for Album of the Year, defeating during her little address. Frank Sinatra irritated several Grammy voters so much that they resigned. This is not luck. Rather, it's the result of ignoring those who don't share your vision. She portrayed Fanny Brice in Funny Girl a year later, but his daughter didn't want to. She claimed that Barbra was not attractive, and that she was too Brooklyn and Jewish for the part. When they learned she had the part, enough investors withdrew. Over $1 million, but Barbra destroyed it. Played the part 867 times, missing just 2 performances, despite having pneumonia. She continued to sing songs that were composed especially for her because of her voice. 3.5 octave range. And in one scene, a sprinkler broke, soaking her, yet she continued singing. And when the play relocated, the director added it because he enjoyed it. Despite the scathing criticism from London's critics, tickets were eventually sold on the black market for £150, which was a ridiculous sum in 1965. She agreed to a $5 million TV contract with CBS for 10 specials. Despite being under 23, the contract provided her total authority. Therefore, CBS was unable to alter. Athy couldn't play advertising during her songs without her consent. Barbra, the first special, defied all the rules by singing at the beginning of the performance. Executives were afraid to be alone in the dark, whereas 71% of TV viewers won 5 Emmys that evening, and she even edited the entire show herself. The director then acknowledged that he simply did as she said. In 1968, Barbra Streisand became a cinematic legend after leaving the Broadway theater. She played the part that made her famous, Fanny Brice, in Funny Girl. The film's popularity skyrocketed on stage, making it the highest-grossing film of. Barbra's performance in the United States was so impactful that she won the Evil. More startling was the fact that it was her first film and she won an Academy Award for Best Actress. She and Katharine Hepburn tied, the only time that has ever happened in that Oscar category. 8 Oscar nominations were received by the picture, confirming that Barbra was not only a theatrical star but also a movie one. Later, Funny Girl was saved as a national asset by the Library of Congress, but in 1972, Barbra didn't limit herself to musicals. She took a major chance with what Schurz detested the script for Up Doc, a crazy comedy starring Ryan O'Neal, and revealed reporters it would fail. But significant modifications were made behind the scenes. O'Neal portrayed the serious role, while the character was rewritten to be more enjoyable. Worked, and the film became the 3rd biggest film of the year. Barbra received accolades from critics and made $500,000 for the part, more than her co-star. Comic abilities. The movie became a classic and was ranked among the best American. The following year's comedies included Barbra opposite Robert Redford. In the Way We Were was a novel between a lovely writer and a fervent Jewish activist set during a politically charged tumultuous period in America. The movie made $50 million on a $5 million budget. Which gained Barbra a Top Italian Award and another Oscar nomination. The title song she sung for the film prize became the biggest hit of 1974 and sold more than 2 million copies before being included in the Grammy Awards decades later. By 1972, Barbra, who was already in the Hall of Fame, desired greater authority over her work, founded Barwood Films, a production firm, and her debut project was Up. A bored housewife escapes into the sandbox, an odd but daring movie. Despite not being a box office success, critics praised its fearless approach to feminism. Reviewers likened her on-screen persona to icons such as Greta Garbo and Roger. Arter claimed that she portrayed a woman who didn't give a damn about what people thought, which was uncommon in movies at the time. Then followed the 1976 film A Star Is Born, in which Barbra did more than simply play the part, produced it as well. And Evergreen, the movie's love song, became a huge hit. In addition to co-writing the song, Barbra became the first female Oscar winner for music composition, received a Golden Globe and a Grammy for her performance, and she was awarded another Golden later on. Globe and Evergreen was considered one of her greatest songs ever. Barbra battled hard for artistic control, especially because success wasn't easy. It took her 15 years to make her debut film, Gentle, which she directed in 1983, before one studio finally offered her a $14.5 million budget. The others said no. 20-hour days. She led a team that was primarily male while disguised in tight bonds, of 168, and some even wagered that she wouldn't succeed. Yet she disproved their predictions. Despite the film earning over $40 million, one voter acknowledged that he would not, simply because she was a woman at the time. Barely 0.5% of voters cast ballots for her. Women started directing studio films when Gentle received positive reviews in 1984. Barbra was not nominated by the Golden Globes in the primary directing category. Rather, they created a one-time prize just for her as the greatest musical director or comedy. That category vanished the following year. At the ceremony, Barbra respectfully asked why she wasn't included with the rest of her case. Them up following 2 cancellations prior to the main meeting with Brolin, another woman that evening, but he took Valium at the last minute after changing his mind because he was anxious and anticipated a bearded, tough man but discovered him clean-shaven for a different part. And they spent 6 hours conversing. They subsequently discovered that they were born in Los Angeles, only 3.4 and 4 miles apart. Streisand asked him, "Who messed up your hair?" Throughout the first 30 seconds she didn't intend to anything negative, but it really got to Brolin because his ex-wife had never made any remarks about his appearance. That one comment stayed with him for 11 years, and he nearly left. But something forced him to stay that evening, which concluded at 3:27 a.m., with her requesting Ash saved a lock of his hair, which is currently displayed in their house with a handwritten note. She later acknowledged that, only 17 minutes after they first met, she thought he was different from the 28 blind dates she had gone on in the previous 3 years. Brolin attempted to pop the question 3 times. The first time was in a hot air balloon over Napa. 87 days after they first met, he gifted her a $250,000 diamond weighing 3.9 carats. She replied that she had a 2-year rule following a negative relationship with a previous fiancé. Played her on New Year's Eve 1997 in New York for the second proposal. Favorite song from her early years and knelt down in front of 14 pals. She refused once more. The third time she worked was on March 15, 1998, while having a picnic at her house in Malibu. He gave her a 24-page letter, this time that listed 98 reasons why they should be together, what she didn't tell him at the time, and only disclosed years later in her memoir Waste that, when they first met, she was secretly betrothed to another man. Ended their relationship after their 5th date. They were married precisely 2 years later. July 1, 1998 was the first date, and the wedding cost $1.4 million. There were 37 guards present, and security was strict at Streisand's house in Malibu. The ceremony started at 8:47 p.m. and included a no-fly zone and NDAs with $250,000 penalties. When they first met, 15,000 white flowers and orchids were flown in. Among the visitors from 4 nations were Tom Hanks, Oprah Winfrey, the Clintons, and Marlon Brando. Streisand donned an Armani suit and a gown with a 27-foot train. She composed the song "I've Finally" for the occasion while wearing diamond cufflinks. Discovered that a children's choir from her organization sang "You" at 11:43 p.m. Brolin delivered a speech at the reception. It was 273 words long. Framed, he declared, "Sleeping is a waste of time because every night is a new adventure." Eager to see her again in the morning after fighting sleeplessness for 27 after 642 nights together prior to the wedding, she became his cure for years. They played crossword puzzles, read poetry in bed, and reminisced over things they had never broken. Also played a tune on the piano that night that he had secretly discovered, that Barbra's lullaby misspelled her name as a prank. Later, according to John Travolta, Brolin kept a journal detailing their daily activities together, which he intended to gift her. In 2023, they achieved the milestone on their 25th anniversary. They maintained separate bank accounts from the beginning of their marriage, a practice known as bifurcation. After losing $3 million in his second divorce, Brolin claimed that it was his idea. They were worth $400 million and even divided the cost of dinner every Tuesday, and Brolin had $60 million. Thus they were able to maintain equality. According to a 2023 conversation with Brolin, a single account containing $800,000 for the house claimed that during the CO-19 shutdown, this arrangement spared them from financial disputes that destroyed other Hollywood couples. While many couples broke up, they fell in love all over again, and their bond grew even stronger once more. They slept together for 425 consecutive nights and woke up at 6:45 a.m. They completed 37 puzzles, one for each potential year, while they meditated and prepared breakfast. Marriage. They acted out parts from The Crown and Bridgerton twice during the lockout. They even penned a $278-page logbook in which Brolin suggested that their $35,000 Swedish mattress might be turned into a memoir. The boardroom, as it was known at headquarters, had extra assistance. Settings for both of them, including places for paperwork and pillows that they converted into laptop stands for their successful careers. Choices from that bedtime struggle, and even composed songs for her 2018 album during that time. They slept on that mattress for 4 to 6 hours every day. Their bedroom was, the cost of soundproofing was $175,000. According to Roland, the majority of their most creative ideas originated in that peaceful area. While they didn't fight or go on walks at random, they had rigorous rules. While walking in opposite directions, they took deep breaths every 30 steps. After 17 minutes, they returned to their 3.2-acre estate and wrote in their notebook entries, describing their experiences using this technique. At least 217 times they went on 7 hikes over 3 days in 2019 during a dispute over Streisand's book. Even when they requested separate walking lanes from hotel workers while on vacation, Brolin remarked walking allowed their brains to naturally relax and solve difficulties. Additionally, Streisand continued to be active in her advocacy for women's heart health. Started the campaign in 2014 called Fight the Lady Killer. She assisted in funding a heart institute after learning that heart disease kills more women than other cancers combined at Cedars-Sinai, and advocated for greater consciousness. She delivered a significant talk in 2018. She discussed at the National Institute of Health how women frequently receive worse cardiac care than men, and her work reduced the death rate from 1 in 3 women to 1 in 4. She also wrote her book, My Name is Barbra, for 10 years, and it was published, and she wrote it in 2023, and it was 970 pages long. All by hand. She had been considering it as early as the 1990s. Critics complimented its honesty and manner, and Brolin quipped that she probably wrote it because Jacqueline Kennedy begged her to do so. Authored the majority of it on their luxurious mattress in bed. As of 2025, Brolin is 83 and don't plan on quitting, he told People magazine while filming. He joked when narrating the last season of Sweet Tooth and Ransom Canyon that despite producing fewer films, Streisand made up for it with 97 and 600 productions hours watching TV. He stated that the upcoming endeavor is what most excites him. Brolin was enticed back to westerns by Ransom Canyon, where he portrayed a rancher named Cap. He wishes his character had been on the program longer. Fuller dies in episode 9. It also the first significant solar-powered production on Netflix, and it was shot across around the same time that Brolin concluded recounting all 150 miles passed in New Mexico. Seasons of Sweet Tooth. He discussed his extensive horseback riding background and stated acting gave him energy, but directing remained his passion.